Let's start by imagining something very simple. A woman walks into a room and the attention shifts. Why? Not because of something material, not because of an act of arrogance, but because there's an energy, a presence. And while we often admire women's strengths, their resilience, their intellect, their beauty, there is a side that every man who wants to understand relationships, connections, and emotional dynamics should be aware of. Today, we're going to talk about the top 10 weaknesses women have, not to belittle them, but to understand them deeply, to connect with them genuinely, and to build relationships that are strong, healthy, and lasting. Because if you understand what drives emotions, what triggers insecurities, and what makes her feel valued, you can navigate the most complex of human connections. Women, at their core, crave acknowledgement. A simple, I notice you or I appreciate you, can melt walls that seemed unbreakable. Emotional validation is not a weakness to mock, it's a key to understanding her heart. Ignore it, and misunderstandings will grow. A man who learns to give sincere validation without overdoing it builds trust and intimacy beyond imagination. No matter how confident she appears, there's an internal voice, sometimes subtle, sometimes loud, questioning whether she's enough. This fear shapes decisions, influences behavior, and often hides behind laughter or teasing. A man who recognizes this can be gentle, reassuring, and safe. He becomes the anchor she unconsciously seeks. Women have a unique ability to process emotions in layers. What seems simple on the surface may have deep roots. This is often mistaken for drama, but it's really complexity. Understanding this is a gift for a man because responding with patience rather than judgment can transform conflict into connection. Emotional, financial, or relational security, women notice it more than we often realize. It's not about greed or dependence, it's about comfort and stability. A man who provides consistent presence, reliability, and protection earns not just loyalty, but genuine admiration. Small acts of neglect, forgotten messages, unremembered birthdays, or even a lack of attention can affect her deeply. It's not about control, it's about feeling valued. A man who is attentive to these subtleties builds a bond that feels unbreakable. Even the strongest, most independent woman thrives on genuine recognition. Compliments are not shallow, they are affirmations of existence and identity. A man who observes, notices, and expresses appreciation without exaggeration is remembered far more than one who assumes silence is enough. Women's emotions can sometimes seem sudden or intense. It's not manipulation, it's authenticity. Understanding the difference between emotional expression and emotional demand is crucial. A man who listens, empathizes, and responds calmly turns potential friction into mutual understanding. Many women, regardless of strength or independence, fear loneliness. Connection is vital. Companionship is a core desire. Men who understand this, who provide genuine partnership, help alleviate that fear naturally. It's not about controlling her life. It's about showing presence without being overbearing. Romance isn't about grandiose acts. It's about thoughtfulness. Remembering little details, small surprises, a hand on her back when she's stressed, these gestures matter. Weakness? Perhaps in the sense that women respond deeply to care and thoughtfulness, but this is an opportunity for men to be memorable and irreplaceable. Even confident women have insecurities about looks, social image, or personal worth. These insecurities are often hidden, but they guide many choices and behaviors. A man who reassures, compliments genuinely, and accepts her wholly helps her feel seen beyond appearances. Now, you might notice a pattern. These weaknesses are not flaws, they are windows into her inner world. Each point is less about deficiency and more about connection, about understanding the human need for love, recognition, and emotional safety. A man who knows these weaknesses does not exploit them. He uses this knowledge to foster trust, intimacy, and loyalty. Think about it this way. In the art of relationships, knowledge is power, but empathy is the force that transforms knowledge into lasting connection. When you understand her emotional triggers, fears, and desires, you navigate her world not as an intruder, but as a partner. Remember, no woman wants to feel manipulated. She wants to feel understood, valued, and safe. Her weaknesses are her humanity. They are not weaknesses in the sense of inferiority, but signals, opportunities to connect at a profound level. Every point I mentioned, the need for validation, sensitivity to neglect, fear of rejection, desire for security, these are opportunities for a man to be conscious, present, and intentional. Relationships crumble when these are ignored, and they thrive when these are acknowledged with sincerity. So, as men, take note. Understanding is not weakness, and noticing is not intrusion. These insights allow you to communicate better, to love better, and to create a bond that is rare, genuine, and enduring. A woman who feels truly understood, appreciated, and safe is unstoppable. And a man who facilitates that environment is not just a partner, he becomes her confidant, her protector, her anchor. At the end of the day, the weaknesses we just explored are mirrors of emotional needs, not flaws. They teach us patience, mindfulness, and the power of empathy. The stronger the man understands these dynamics, the stronger his relationship becomes, not through control, but through insight, care, and emotional intelligence. Let's explore a deeper layer, beyond the obvious emotional needs. Women, like men, carry histories, experiences, and learned behaviors. And these influence the way their weaknesses show up. For example, when a woman overthinks, it's rarely random. It often comes from a past where she felt unheard or dismissed. Understanding this, a man can respond not with irritation, but with patience. He can say, I see your point, I hear you, and we'll figure this out together. That simple acknowledgement can diffuse tension and build connection faster than any argument ever could. Consider the fear of rejection. It's fascinating because it doesn't always appear as shyness. Sometimes it's boldness masking vulnerability. A woman might challenge, tease, or even test a man, not to push him away, but to gauge safety. And here lies the opportunity. The man who remains composed, who responds with calm assurance rather than defensiveness, signals reliability. This isn't manipulation, it's human psychology, and it's crucial for men to recognize it without judgment. Now, the desire for security is often misunderstood as dependence, but think carefully. Security isn't only financial. It's emotional consistency. A man who frequently changes moods, priorities, or decisions inadvertently triggers insecurity. On the other hand, consistent kindness, thoughtful communication, and presence create an environment where trust can flourish. And when trust flourishes, women's hearts open naturally, willingly, and deeply. Let's talk about sensitivity to neglect. Imagine this scenario. She texts you a simple, "How was your day?" and you don't respond for hours. It may seem trivial, but for her, it sends an emotional signal: I matter or do I not? The truth is, small actions create large emotional ripples. Recognizing this allows a man to prioritize connection without feeling like he's losing freedom or control. It's the art of emotional awareness. When it comes to compliments and appreciation, authenticity matters more than frequency. A generic "you look nice" rarely makes an impact. But noticing subtle details, a new hairstyle, a change in tone, an accomplishment that may seem small, these show that you are truly paying attention. And attention is more than words, it's presence. A man who masters this becomes memorable without trying, because attention is a form of respect that resonates at a deep emotional level. Emotional reactivity, often misinterpreted as drama, is another layer to understand. A sudden reaction may feel overwhelming, but it's usually a manifestation of feeling unheard or undervalued. The wise response is empathy, not argument, listening, not debating. By acknowledging the emotion first, I understand why you feel this way. A man validates the experience without surrendering his own emotional stability. This balance is where connection transforms into intimacy. The fear of being alone is subtle but pervasive. Even women who project independence have moments of longing for companionship. Men who recognize this can offer partnership without pressure. The key is not solving the loneliness for her, but creating a space where she feels supported, accompanied, and genuinely seen. It's the difference between presence and intrusion. When we consider romance and thoughtful gestures, it's often the smallest details that carry the greatest weight. A favorite snack left on the table, a spontaneous message reminding her she's appreciated, or remembering a moment she mentioned months ago. These tiny acts matter because they communicate awareness and care. Men who understand this principle wield influence not through force or persuasion, but through mindfulness. Appearance related insecurities are often invisible. A woman may appear confident, flawless even, but internally doubts exist. They manifest in subtle ways: a hesitation, a question, a request for reassurance. A man who can affirm her worth without overcompensation, who notices and celebrates her individuality, fosters self-assurance in her. And self-assuredness strengthens not just her, but the relationship itself. But let's also talk about the nuances of communication. Women often communicate indirectly through tone, pauses, or gestures. A sigh, a delayed response, a fleeting expression, these are signals. Men who can interpret these without frustration build deeper understanding. And this ability isn't innate. It's learned through observation, empathy, and attention to patterns over time. Another critical point: women value emotional honesty. A man who avoids vulnerability creates distance, while a man who shares thoughts, feelings, and uncertainties models trust. Recognizing her emotional weaknesses isn't about power, it's about reciprocity. Emotional literacy becomes the bridge between two hearts, where her sensitivities and your awareness meet to create mutual respect and closeness. Let's not ignore the role of social perception. Women are often aware of how others perceive them: friends, family, colleagues. This awareness shapes decisions, sometimes creating pressure. A man who supports her autonomy while affirming her choices mitigates these external pressures. It's subtle but incredibly effective. Then there's the influence of past relationships. Many women carry unspoken lessons from previous experiences: broken trust, unfulfilled promises, moments of disappointment. These past imprints shape reactions in the present. A man who acknowledges this context without judgment gains insight into triggers and patterns. It's not about excusing behavior, it's about understanding it. Finally, the interplay between independence and connection is essential to grasp. Women may present themselves as strong and self reliant, but that doesn't negate the desire for connection. The weakness lies not in reliance, but in the tension between independence and the need for emotional closeness. A man who respects autonomy while nurturing intimacy demonstrates balance, a rare but profoundly impactful trait. Let's take a moment to explore trust, or rather, the fragility of it. For women, trust is earned slowly and lost quickly. A careless word, a forgotten promise, even a tone of indifference can create cracks. And here's the key: a man who understands this doesn't just avoid mistakes, he actively builds trust through consistent actions. Showing up, being present, and honoring commitments, even the small ones, creates a foundation that becomes almost unshakable. Now, think about Communication of needs. Women often express needs indirectly, assuming the man will perceive subtle hints. Sometimes it's a casual comment about feeling tired, sometimes a fleeting look, sometimes a change in mood. The weakness here is not inability, it's expectation that needs will be seen and met without explicit demand. A man who hones the skill of noticing, interpreting, and responding appropriately becomes invaluable because he creates a space where she feels heard without having to voice every concern explicitly. Consider the power of patience. Emotional cycles are not linear. A day may start with laughter and end with tears. Hormonal fluctuations, external stress, or internal reflection can all contribute. A man who reacts impulsively or dismissively amplifies discomfort. A man who offers patience, calm presence, and understanding becomes a stabilizing force, a lighthouse amidst emotional storms. This is not weakness in her, it's sensitivity. And sensitivity, when handled well, transforms into depth of connection. Let's explore conflict resolution. Women often approach conflict with the goal of emotional clarity, not domination. The weakness is that unresolved emotions are felt deeply, and avoidance or insensitivity can make them linger longer than necessary. A man who listens first, validates emotions, and then contributes thoughtfully to problem solving not only resolves issues, but strengthens the relational bond. Conflict becomes a bridge rather than a wall. Now, let's talk about influence of social comparison. Women are often acutely aware of societal standards, beauty, career, social life, relationship status. This can trigger insecurities that manifest in ways a man may not immediately understand: withdrawal, subtle defensiveness, or seeking reassurance. Recognizing this, a man can offer support without overcompensation, helping her feel confident without feeling judged. Awareness here is transformative. We also must consider the craving for emotional adventure. Routine, predictability, and monotony can subtly erode enthusiasm. Women may seek emotional novelty, not instability, but shared experiences that awaken joy, curiosity, and excitement. A man who introduces meaningful, playful, or thoughtful experiences without forcing drama reignites connection. The weakness is simply the need for stimulation. The opportunity is building shared memories and emotional intimacy. Let's not forget the subtle influence of maternal instincts. Women often have a deep-seated desire to nurture and protect, not just children, but loved ones, family, and even relationships themselves. This instinct can create overthinking or heightened concern about outcomes. A man who recognizes this as care rather than control appreciates her dedication and responds with gratitude rather than dismissal. Consider vulnerability in the presence of safety. Women do not reveal their deepest selves to everyone. They gauge trust, read intentions, and test boundaries. Vulnerability is a hidden strength that is only accessible to men who have demonstrated integrity and emotional intelligence. Misreading signals can push her back into guardedness. Honoring boundaries invites genuine closeness. Think about the impact of past disappointments. Every woman carries moments where she felt unseen, unheard, or undervalued. These past experiences shape expectations and reactions. The weakness is hyper-awareness or cautiousness. But for a man who responds with patience, consistency, and empathy, it becomes a map to understanding her deeply. Past pain doesn't define her. It informs how connection should be approached. Another critical layer is the interplay between independence and attachment. A woman may excel in independence, career, social life, personal growth, but still crave emotional proximity. The subtle weakness lies in balancing autonomy with the desire for connection. Men who respect independence while offering secure attachment demonstrate the rare ability to nurture growth without triggering insecurity. Let's talk about loyalty and emotional commitment. Women often test loyalty, consciously or unconsciously, to feel secure in attachment. The weakness is the need for consistent reassurance, but it's also a deep strength. Once trust is earned, commitment is unwavering. Men who understand the significance of loyalty and who consistently show integrity cultivate bonds that are exceptionally resilient. Now, consider the desire for appreciation beyond words. Women notice effort, subtle attentiveness, and emotional nuance. The weakness is responsiveness to these subtleties. They crave recognition of effort, not just outcomes. Men who tune into these cues, celebrate effort, and acknowledge small victories create emotional environments that feel safe, validating, and cherished. Finally, the power of being understood at a core level cannot be overstated. Every weakness we've discussed, emotional sensitivity, fear of rejection, desire for security, is amplified or mitigated depending on whether she feels truly understood. A man who perceives patterns, interprets cues accurately, and responds empathetically unlocks depth, intimacy, and emotional resonance that is rare, powerful, and transformative. Understanding these weaknesses is not about exploiting them. It's about recognizing the humanity, the emotions, and the inner world of a woman. Every need, every sensitivity, every fear is a window into her heart. And a man who approaches these with empathy, patience, and awareness becomes more than a partner. He becomes a source of trust, comfort, and true intimacy. Remember this: strength in a relationship is not about control, dominance, or superficial gestures. It's about understanding, connection, and emotional intelligence. When you honor her vulnerabilities, respond with sincerity, and value her presence, you build a bond that is rare, resilient, and unforgettable. The ultimate truth is simple: a woman's weaknesses are not flaws, they are invitations. Invitations to listen deeper, love sincerely, and connect authentically. A man who rises to this understanding doesn't just win her heart, he earns a partnership built on respect, trust, and shared growth. And in this journey, remember, relationships are not about perfect people. They are about perfectly understanding each other, embracing differences, and nurturing what truly matters.